President Trump and Elon Musk's dismantling of the federal government keeps impacting new Coloradans. We told you about the dozens of IRS workers laid off in Denver, the park rangers axed at Rocky Mountain National Park. Tonight, we hear from a CDC researcher in Fort Collins who was working on Lyme disease detection. He tells our Spencer Soisher that his small but vital team was taken apart without so much as a word to his supervisors.
This is my performance review, or the front of it. Seems decent for being new.
Welcome to Joe Cardiello's new office.
I was let go the next day on a Saturday with a letter that was dated from the day before.
His new job, applying for a new job in his kitchen.
Within any specific town, there's only so many positions that really fit these specific skills.
Until last weekend, Joe was a research biologist with the CDC in Fort Collins, part of a team of 7 researchers.
We are working on a detection method and improving detection methods.
A letter from the federal government says he was fired for performance reasons. Not really, though. He was let go because he'd only been there 6 months, a probationary worker, caught up in the slashing of the government workforce. A one-size-fits-all approach to firing people, one, Joe says, involved none of his supervisors.
The leadership had hoped to be consulted with a lot of this because there is no plan for who takes over when, 2 of my ex-colleagues retire within the next 2 years. They need to be training someone for years to get the right experience.
Lyme disease is the most common animal bite spread disease in the country. It usually spreads from a tick bite. It can cause significant pain for long periods of time.
It can be horrifying if you don't catch it and treat it. In some cases, there are projects that have been ongoing that have costed a lot of money that are needing to be scrapped and will need to be restarted.
Joe may be unemployed, working in his kitchen, but he'll find a new job. And in the name of efficiency, important work that's been invested in may go to waste.
Projects will be dropped. Treatments or detection methods will be lost. Decades of work can sometimes get lost in a freezer if you're not careful.
Joe was also offered the fork-in-the-road buyout. He considered it, but this was his dream job, and he gave up a lot to get it. Moved to Fort Collins with a wife and their baby, went through all the background checks, and there aren't that many positions like this. He wants to do that work, and to him it was worth the gamble. Now he'll get a month's pay instead of about 8.
So Spencer, we have heard about cock-ups in some other departments where they fired people and then desperately tried to hire them back. Would he go back after what he's gone through?
So I asked him that today. 100%. This is what he wants to be doing. He thinks it's important research. He's passionate. He has pride. That's the job he wants to be doing. There aren't that many of them. He would take it back in a heartbeat.
Spencer Soisher, thank you.
Tonight's next question comes from a viewer named KD, who wants to know if the thousands of federal employees who have been fired or laid off will be eligible for unemployment benefits.
So, Katie, we should be clear. What's happening to federal employees right now is unprecedented. This could lead to years of legal battles that determine the answer to your question. But in the short term, the employees being laid off or fired by the Trump administration have varying levels of protection and access to unemployment benefits. To be eligible for unemployment benefits in Colorado, you have to meet certain requirements, like making a certain amount over 12 months. So a small number of probationary employees without many hours might be disqualified. Colorado law also requires people filing for unemployment to have lost their job through no fault of their own. This is where it gets interesting. We know that some federal employees recently fired by the Trump administration got a form letter citing poor work performance, despite the fact that they had a history of positive reviews. Our legal analyst, Whitney Traylor, says workers with a demonstrated history of positive performance have a strong claim to get unemployment.
When employers say, oh, it was because of your performance, but then you look at all of their performance reviews and they were excellent reviews. There was no write-up. There was no discipline. In front of a decision maker, that looks completely without credibility. So here, when you have these sort of mass layoffs with a standard letter that says it was a performance issue, they're going to have a strong claim in unemployment that, hey, I was not at fault for this separation.
Colorado's Labor Department has already set up a frequently asked questions page just for federal employees who are out of a job. It walks folks through the steps of filing for benefits, whether they were laid off, terminated, or took that fork-in-the-road deferred resignation off. Processing claims takes at least 4 to 6 weeks, so the department says people should file as soon as possible after their last day. The Trump administration is fed up with lower than expected deportation numbers. You'll remember the immigration raids in the Denver metro area. They targeted 100 gang members, and Fox News says they got one. Well, now the head of ICE is out, and the Trump administration is reportedly looking at an expansion of mass detention centers, including one in Colorado. The New York Times reports President Trump's team is developing a plan to use military installations to detain migrants who are here without authorization. The Times cites multiple administration officials who say Fort Bliss in Texas would serve as the hub to hold up to 10,000 people, and other sites, including Buckley Space Force Base in Aurora, could be used for additional capacity. Buckley was already prepped to help with ICE operations last month, but at the time, Democratic Congressman Jason Crow said he had been assured that that base would not be used for detention. The Trump administration is also reassigning acting ICE Director Caleb Vitello. He's been on the job for less than a month. He was on the ground during last month's raids in Aurora, where the Trump administration blamed leaks and the local media for their low number of arrests. Journalists serve the public, not the powerful. That's one of the strengths of a free people, even if it doesn't sit well with the powerful, especially those who sit in seats of government power. President Trump is unhappy with the Associated Press because the AP is not using the government's new name for the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America. In retaliation for the AP's words, the president is using his power to ban AP reporters from presidential events. The AP is now suing, saying that's an unconstitutional restriction on speech, writing in its lawsuit, "The press and all people in the United States have the right to choose their own words and not be retaliated against by the government." The DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, is unhappy with this news organization, 9 News, after we reported that the DEA's highly publicized drug bust/immigration raid did not result in any criminal charges. So today, the DEA announced it would no longer answer any questions from 9 News journalists. The Associated Press will continue covering the president with or without his permission. We will continue covering the DEA and immigration raids, with or without their permission. Because when the government shuts out journalists and the public we serve, it's not a sign of strength. It's just a sign of power. And those are two very different things. So there are growing reports about people threatening immigrants with a call to immigration agents. The Trump administration carries out its raids in Colorado and across the country. Tonight, let's dive into when those kind of threats are and are not legal. Our Mark Salinger reports on what is believed to be the very first lawsuit filed under Colorado's 4-year-old Immigrant Tenant Protection Act.
There are laws in this state that direct when it's legal or illegal to threaten to call immigration authorities based on someone's perceived immigration status.
In general, yes, it's legal to try to call immigration on somebody, but it may not be legal if you're using it to gain leverage them over some other matter.
Aaron Hall is an immigration attorney with a law firm based in Aurora. He says the most common situation he sees these threats in is workplace disputes. Think wage theft, when someone threatens to pay someone less than they earned and threatens to call immigration if they complain.
So where a person contracts with somebody to do certain work, the person does the work and then they refuse to pay the amount in full.
As immigration raids are carried out around Colorado, a new lawsuit filed by the ACLU may soon set a precedent between landlords and tenants.
A landlord threatened to call immigration on his tenants unless they immediately vacated the apartment.
Tim McDonald is the legal director of the ACLU of Colorado. His lawsuit points to the Colorado Immigrant Tenant Protection Act, a law that's been in place for 4 years now.
And what they can't do is intimidate, harass, threaten their tenants based on the landlord's perception of their immigration status.
The threat the landlords allegedly made to the tenants to call immigration if they didn't move out of the building is illegal, the ACLU argues.
We think it's the first case that's brought under the Immigrant Tenants Protection Act, and it would establish the principle that our immigrant neighbors have rights just like all other tenants.
We reached out to the landlords but never heard back. The judge in the case already issued a preliminary injunction, an early win for the tenants who are suing. For Next, I'm Mark Salinger.
ICE told us that agency does not offer rewards for tips in support of civil immigration enforcement. They do, however, run a tip line to report crimes. So just a reminder again, we talked about this a lot. Being in the country without authorization is a civil offense. It's not a crime. Illegally crossing the border, that is a crime. Colorado Republicans have announced the headliner for their big fundraiser in March. And I'd be lying if I said I did not see Steve Bannon as a logical pick for a state party that's fully embraced the extreme right. Bannon's in the news this week for calling for Donald Trump to get an unconstitutional third term and for giving a crowd of conservatives an arm gesture that so closely resembled a Nazi salute that another far-right leader refused to appear on the same stage where it happened. Bannon has a chance to thrill another audience with that arm gesture that he insists is not a Nazi salute when he appears at the Colorado GOP's A Golden Age Gala on March 28th at the Denver Tech Center. The state party's invite called Bannon an unapologetic patriot, leading the fight to reclaim America from the globalist elite. At the Conservative Political Action Conference yesterday, Bannon extended his right arm to the crowd. He said it was just a wave. And when a far-right leader from France pulled out of that event, citing Bannon's gesture alluding to Nazi ideology, Bannon responded by calling him female genitalia. Bannon's gesture was quite similar to the one made by Elon Musk at a Trump inauguration event. The Anti-Defamation League condemned, quote, Bannon's long and disturbing history of stoking anti-Semitism and hate. Tickets are on sale now for his Colorado GOP fundraiser in March. Denver's Florence Crittenden campus is a really well-known school in our area for teen moms. It's a place where young women and their children are able to turn their challenges into success that can last multiple generations, right? This week's Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign supports FlowCrit's well-known work in our community because the teenage mothers they serve get help to finish their high school diploma, and at the same time, they know that their babies are safe and well cared for nearby at FlowCrit's Early Childhood Education Center. Each young family gets one-on-one case management and support to overcome any specific challenges in their lives, whether that is a housing problem or transportation, job skills, any other basic needs that they might have, food, diapers, so forth. They work with these young mothers and their kids for years to keep both generations on the path to success and eventual self-sufficiency. And it's all the little things, right? Think of all the doctor's appointments that pregnant women and young kids need. FlowCrit has an on-campus medical center that offers obstetrics and pediatrics, so students never have to miss a day of school to schlep back and forth to the doctor or to take their baby to an appointment. It's all right there for them. It's that multi-generational wraparound service that can change lives. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get that link to join me and a bunch of others in donating. More than 4,000 of you have signed up to simplify your giving with a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. And that has become the heart of these recent micro-giving campaigns. It's meant more than $30,000 in donations each week. That is huge for these organizations. You can use the same QR code or text to get there.
I just crashed into the tree. That was amazing too.
Ah yes, the highs and the lows of a sledding day at Ruby Hill. We head there with our favorite Friday question. And if taxes can double as good news, lo and behold, Colorado is finally accepting tax returns nearly a month after people started filing. Colorado's finally started processing tax returns today from third-party providers like TurboTax and H&R Block. A little treat for you. But the department's revenue portal online, where Coloradans can file their state returns for free on their own, still down. The department says the portal should be up in a few days. Colorado usually starts accepting returns between Martin Luther King Jr. Day and early February. So what is the holdup? The department says new tax credits and some other changes to the tax code are taking extra time to get into the system. You know what, Corey? Nobody's going to want to file taxes this weekend anyway, because we are going to go from like the deep freeze to like pretty nice weather by the end of the weekend.
Yeah, you'll be totally busy, probably outside. You know, we filed ours about 3 polar vortexes ago, or is it polar vortices? Well, anyway, somewhere around Martin Luther King Day, I'll start you out with the weather pattern here. This is that small but mighty storm system that delivered all that snow right here to the Denver metro area. We're going to push that thing away here out to the East Coast, and in its wake, there is nothing but high pressure coming for days, and that means very little precipitation and warm air, except for maybe this little bend here coming on Wednesday. But other than that, it's all 60s likely. Starting tomorrow with the 50s. Here's the forecast for tomorrow. It's not going to be a very good day if you're a pile of snow or a Frosty the Snowman, because there's going to be lots of snow melt going on across the state. Even the 30s and 40s in the mountains are going to be under a lot of sunshine here. And then on your 7-day forecast, you can see all the 60s on the board here. And there's that little dip of low pressure there on Wednesday, but otherwise it's all 60s all the time. Now this would be our second false spring, so coming up next would be the second winter, which is usually what happens somewhere in the first 2 weeks of March. So that's what we'll be watching for after all this nice warm weather, Kyle.
Well, it's all downhill from here, both from Corey's excellent forecast and to the rest of my newscast, and also at Ruby Hill, where there's plenty of good news to go around today. Hey, reminder, you can catch Next streaming each night at 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus. And Next is a podcast, if it's easier for you to catch us there. Just can't see the jackets. One of my all-time favorite Next stories, and this was years ago, is how sledders at Ruby Hill kept flying downhill and smashing into this wood fence at the bottom of the hill. So the city put in a plastic fence, so sledders smashed into that instead. Anyway, we went back to Ruby Hill to collect today's good news.
Put your feet up.
Put your feet up.
There it goes.
I've got some really great news. I started my new business, an arborist, contract climber. I've been doing it for 8 years. Finally decided to pull the trigger and take responsibility for myself and take care of some trees.
I had fun. It was a little faster than I thought, and I lost both of my shoes on the way down.
I hear back from colleges soon, which could be good news.
My good news is that we had a snow day today, and I got to spend it with my close friends.
My good news is that we didn't have school today and we got to come here and just play.
We might make a snowman.
My good news today is that I'm almost done with this snow fort.
Still go. Ow. It's really fun to spend time with family, making people smile.
I like it quite a lot. They made it huge and it has a skull.
I bought me some new boots to come out to go sledding. And she went sledding and lost her boots.
All the kids going down, having fun. It like warms the heart, it really does.
No such thing as a bad day at Ruby Hill. Hey, here's Kevin, our 9 o'clock producer, running in feedback. Yeah, how about that? Rare appearance. We'll be right back. Is it all right if we read some positive feedback for a change to close out the week? This via text. Thank you for your commentary. I wish everybody would call a bully a bully. Mark in Lyons writes in to say, thank you for actually taking your fourth estate duties as the press seriously. I truly appreciate it. And David writes in to say, you show courage to speak truth to power. I'm not entirely sure about that, David. I'm uncomfortable with the idea that telling the truth requires courage. I think it's just our job. But I would say that not telling the truth when you know what it is, that would be an act of cowardice.